I believe we are headed towards critical mass, the point at which social justice is anti-social justice itself. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I have this story. This is from Gay Star News. I'm not familiar with what Gay Star News is. This story. SNL comedian Nimesh Patel booted off stage for jokes about black gay people. Columbia University Asian American Alliance said his jokes were unproductive in this space. Now, you hear that headline and you say, oh, well, he's making jokes at the expense of black and gay people, right? That sounds like hate speech and sounds like social justice should have removed him. Except the joke he was actually making was he was trying to support the gay community and the black community, okay? The joke was that privilege exists and that life is harder if you're black and gay. He was actually trying to make an intersectional statement, and they were offended by their own ideology. Let's read what happened. I've also, let me say this too. I have another story. Nick Cannon apparently pulled up a bunch of homophobic tweets from celebrities like Amy Schumer and Sarah Silverman, and that's the next one I have that I want to talk about. Former Saturday Night Live comedian Nimesh Patel was booted off stage after allegedly making offensive jokes. Patel, who was the first Asian American comedian to appear on SNL, was invited to perform a set at Columbia University for an event called Culture Shock. The event celebrates Asian and Pacific Islander culture. However, Patel fell into hot water after he made a joke about being gay and black, according to PJ Media. The comedian riffed on how being a gay black man isn't a choice because no one looks in the mirror and thinks, this black thing is too easy, let me just add another thing to it. According to the news source, the crowd of students didn't boo or shout. However, no one was laughing. Then halfway through the skit, organizers jumped on stage and took the mic from the comedian. They asked him to wrap up his set. Meanwhile, he allegedly said he was exposing the students to ideas in the real world. They've come full circle. Well, maybe not full circle. It's more like a death spiral, because they've reached a point where making the point that intersectionality exists is offensive. I'm being 100% serious. Listen, okay, here's what he said. It's not easy. He's making a point about being black isn't easy. Right, that's the idea that there are disadvantages inherent to certain races, and they experience something specific in the form of racism. He then said, let me add another thing to it, being gay, because gay people also experience their own discrimination. Intersectionality literally is the combination of various different traits and how they intersect, right? Which means he quite literally made a joke agreeing with intersectional feminism and was removed from the stage because it was offensive. Congratulations. Do you guys know what an Ouroboros is? It's that image where the snake is eating its own tail. And a lot of people have used that reference because they talk about how the left eats itself, but this is probably the greatest example because you quite literally have a comedian who's agreeing with you, so you boot him off stage for being offensive. Unproductive in the space. One student told PJ, although my friends and I weren't laughing at the jokes, we were all surprised when he got kicked off. None of us were thinking, God, this is so bad, someone should get rid of him. I was very surprised. Either that means I'm not as sensitive as I should be, or the whole thing was just dramatic. A student writer for the Columbia Spectator claimed that when people reacted negatively to his joke, he replied, well, I'm already paid. I gotta say, first of all, he made a joke in support of intersectionality and they didn't like him for it, and his response to that was actually rather epic. Well, I'm already paid. That's you gotta admit, that's a pretty damn good response. People want to get mad at you for making a joke and you're a comedian and they paid you to do it, and you agree with them? Yeah, okay, great. Whatever you say, buddy, thanks for your money. I'm out. In a statement released on their Facebook, the Columbia University Asian American Alliance said his remarks did not align with the mission and message of the Asian American Alliance and Culture Shock. Does that mean to say that Asian American Alliance are anti-intersectional because they didn't like the intersectional joke he made that was in favor of and supporting intersectional feminism? I'm kind of confused as to what they actually trying to say here. They added, Patel's remarks ran counter to the inclusive spirit and integrity of Culture Shock, and as such, the choice was made to invite him to leave. Oh, to invite him to leave. Yes, you may leave if you'd like. We acknowledge that discomfort and safety can coexist. However, the discomfort Patel caused was unproductive in this space. And I think that's the last thing that they posted. I'm actually curious to see if PJ Media has any additional information. So I'll pop over there in a second before we talk about the Nick Cannon stuff. Yeah, it sounds like that's all they got. But let's see what So this story originally popped up last week in PJ Media, and I'm just gonna see how they concluded the story. They say, a Barnard student, Sophia Zhao, told the Columbia Spectator she takes offense at Patel's insinuation that comedy is acceptable in the real world. So now, all right, so this is great. This is interesting to see what PJ said. When Patel said he was exposing people to ideas from the real world, that actually offended people too. And she said, when older generations say you need to stop being so sensitive, it's like undermining what our generation is trying to do and accepting others and making it safer. No, I don't think you understand that when you remove people and what they say, you're making it less inclusive, right? Like, you're not making it more inclusive. You're actually telling people to leave. I kind of just don't understand it. Obviously, the world is not a safe space, but just accepting that it's not continuing to perpetuate the unsafeness of it is saying that it can't be changed. And then PJ Media says they reached out, and they're declining to respond to media until they decide whether to issue a formal statement, which I think we read. Now, here's what's really funny. Before I address the next controversy, what does unsafe mean? Well, these kids have what's called bulldozer parents who stand in front of them and plow every obstacle out of the way. What happens then? Okay, I've used this analogy before, but if you take someone who's never played guitar before or a stringed instrument, yeah, eventually their fingers start bleeding and blistering, okay? In fact, even great guitar players, their fingers blister. Why? It takes time to build up that strength and the protection, the calluses on your skin, to be able to play the guitar without pain and blistering. You build up a defense. When these parents remove all of the obstacles from their kids, what happens? Everything is unsafe. Someone said a bad word, it's unsafe. Oh no, a comedian agreed with us. What do? It's unsafe. They've come full circle. They're literally eating their own tail. But the next story, that's somewhat in line with this, expands beyond it's still part of it's an interesting example, the Ouroboros, the analogy. In this instance, you have someone who's saying a joke that agrees with intersectionality and them casting him out. The next story are comedians who were offensive on purpose, now saying being offensive on purpose is wrong, even though they still have these tweets up. I don't even know if I can show the tweets because I'll probably get in trouble with YouTube. You know what? I'm going to do it anyway. Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart got in trouble because, 10 years ago, he made jokes that are considered today to be homophobic. I do not condone his jokes, okay? I actually am one who tries to avoid being offensive, though I do believe people have a right to be offensive. I try to be polite. And I also don't try to shut other people down. I try to just have polite conversations with them. If someone says something to me that is offensive, that actually hurts someone's feelings, I'll just say, hey man, you hurt someone's feelings. And if they say I don't care, I'll be like, all right, well, that's a part of life. They don't care, I can't do anything about it. But I try, I do try. I try to be amicable. So what happens is Kevin Hart, in 2015, apologizes. And they say, okay. And now he's going to host the Oscars. They say, hey, but remember that time you did this thing? And he's like, dude, I already apologized for that. I'm not going to bring it up again. But they can't, there's blood in the water. So he apologized. And that was a huge mistake. Never apologize. Okay, look, actually, let me take that back. I think his first apology was actually fine. He said, look, I was making comments about my own personal fears. I wouldn't do it again. I've changed. And I can understand why, that may have hurt some people. And I'm like, I respect that. I respect someone who's willing to reach out and say, if you're genuinely upset and I can apologize to you and genuinely make you feel better, depending on the circumstances, I think it's okay. But in this instance, it's clearly not genuine. The reason this story gets interesting is because it seems like, in response, Nick Cannon has dug up homophobic tweets from Amy Schumer and Sarah Silverman. Really interesting. I'm not going to read their tweets. I'm just going to show you a bit of what they say. Nick Cannon wants to throw away Wreck-It Ralph and take back the $11 million Netflix check since Sarah Silverman and Amy Schumer have tweeted homophobic slurs like Kevin Hart. Earlier this week, Kevin Hart was tossed from hosting the Oscars after he refused to apologize for tweets that have occasionally been a thorn in his side from trolls, if you ask him. Kevin used slurs, I'm not going to repeat them because YouTube will get mad, in tweets, and he claims to have apologized already. He did. It was an interview with Rolling Stone, as my understanding. Now, Kevin's brother in comedy, Nick Cannon, is pointing out that Chelsea Handler, Amy Schumer, and Sarah Silverman have used the exact same words, no apologies. Isn't that really funny that Kevin Hart can apologize in 2015? And I think I think he's great. I think he's hilarious. I think he's a funny guy. He can apologize in 2015. And I can sit back and go, wow, Kevin, I really respect that. I think you deserve everything you're getting. You're a funny dude and you're working hard. He's going to host the Oscars. That's really fantastic, man. Kevin Hart, man, becoming a huge star. He already apologized. Doesn't matter. They go for the throat anyway. What about Sarah Silverman? What about Chelsea Handler? What about Amy Schumer? Amy Schumer, who's supposedly this great left-wing idol and like champion who got arrested protesting. Nick Cannon says, interesting, I wonder if there's any backlash here in response to Chelsea Handler. He says, and I effing love Wreck-It Ralph in response to Sarah Silverman. He says, I'm just saying, should we keep going? In reference to Amy Schumer. Someone then tries to call him out. Someone said, while auditing tweets, you need to audit yours. And he said, nope, you know I've been saying effed up S since Twitter started. I don't play that politically correct BS, F politics, only truth. That right there is respectable. When Kevin Hart initially refused to apologize, I was like, right on, man. Because he already did apologize. Nick Cannon goes a step further and says, I don't care, I just don't. And that I greatly respect. Look, I do not like it when people are mean on purpose. I don't like it when people use slurs to insult someone on purpose to make them feel bad. I also don't like it when disingenuous hacks pretend to be offended at something someone already apologized for and then get him booted from the opportunity of a lifetime for no reason. None. So props to Nick Cannon for calling them out. But thus, I will end this video by pointing out the two stories of the social justice Ouroboros. That even when the comedian makes a joke that agrees with their ideology, offensive, you gotta go, get out of here. And then, when comedians complain that other people are offensive, or when people on the left, because there were some celebrities who called out Kevin Hart, complain about it. Even after he apologized, this is never enough. And these same people on the left, they've done the same things. Where was the outcry towards them? Yeah, there wasn't one. It's all hypocrisy, I gotta say. Anyway, I got one more video coming up in a few minutes, so head to my channel, and I'll see you then.